Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. God has given us unlimited treasures in His Word. Every time we open it, we can discover a new treasure or admire an old one. What will we find today? Let's dig in. Here's Carla Early with Treasure Hunt in the Word.
You've probably heard the story of the hymn, "It Is Well With My Soul." If there's anyone in history who could relate to Job, it would be Horatio Spafford, the man who wrote this hymn. In 1871, the successful attorney and real estate investor lost a fortune in the Great Fire of Chicago. His only son died of scarlet fever around the same time. He sent the rest of his family to England while he finished up some business. But on the way, their ship sank, and all 4 of his daughters died. As Horatio sailed for England to join his bereaved wife, he wrote the words of this hymn. When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. He didn't focus on what he had lost, but on where he could find hope. The Shunammite woman of 2 Kings 4 could have written this hymn, or something like it. She and her husband had extended hospitality to God's representative, Elisha. They even built a room for him into their house. In response to their generosity, Elisha asked God to bless this childless couple with a son. They hadn't extended kindness to Elisha in order to get this blessing, but I'm sure the couple was overjoyed. However, a few years later, the boy, out in the field with his father, had a sudden headache. A servant carried him back home to his mother, and he died in her arms. You'd think at this point, the woman would send for her husband, tell him the news, and go into mourning. But she didn't. She called for a donkey and informed her husband she was going to visit Elisha, who was at least a day's journey away. When he asked why she was going, our translations say she replied, "It is well," or "it will be well." But really, she replied, "Shalom," which, as we've talked about before, also means peace, completeness, contentment. This was also her reply to Elisha's servant Gehazi. In this hymn, that's what Horatio Spafford was saying. Whatever happens, God has taught me to be content and say, "It is well." Of course, when the Shunammite woman reached Elisha, she poured out her grief and clung to him. I'm sure Horatio Spafford and his wife did the same thing. But they had hope. The Spaffords knew that they would one day reunite with their children in heaven. And the Shunammite woman also had hope. Most likely she had heard the story of the widow of Zarephath whose son came to life under Elijah's ministry. She knew God had given her son to her in the first place, and he could revive him from death as well. So she knew to go straight to Elisha. He would know what to do. Sure enough, the Shunammite woman received her son back from the Lord. She reminds me of what we all do sometimes. People ask, "How are you?" And no matter what's going on in our lives, no matter the turmoil in our hearts, we respond, "I'm fine." We should be able to say that truly from our hearts. Shalom. There's peace. Everything will be fine. God is in control. Not that we shouldn't talk to close friends, families, or even counselors if we need to. But the one to pour out our heart to is God. He is where our hope comes from. Nothing in this life should cause us to despair because we know He has a plan, and He is working all things for good. Today, can you say your heart is shalom, full of peace?
You can contact us at treasurehuntintheword@gmail.com. We'd love to hear the treasures God has given you through His Word. You can listen to other episodes at our website, which you can find in the description below. Thanks for listening, and remember, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.